Folks, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show. My guest today is an Afro-American musical wizard. He developed his chops on the bandstand, growing up at the tail end of swing and developing his own style within the bebop language. My guest understands the African roots of his music and merged this with the blues of Chicago, which were coming up the Mississippi Delta. He found the groove in bars and nightclubs, ballrooms and burlesque houses. Could have been the London House or the Regal Theatre, swinging his band and merging two different tunes by raising the hand and showing one finger or two. My guest has an entrepreneurial spirit. He never plays the same song once, preferring the improvisational melodies that make real jazz what it is. He has done this before, during, and after the record industry helped create an identity for cats like Dizzy Gillespie, Thelonious Monk, Ramsey Lewis, Randy Weston, Horace Silver, and Milt Jackson. He's toured the world playing late into the evening at Oil Can Harry's, a club in Vancouver with the venerable Calvin Keys and fellow Steel City bassist John Hurd. He's cut albums and soundtracks on Argo and Chess, Catalyst, and 20th Century. Today we live in the 21st century, where labels have stratified music. This has led to a rigid radio structure and a shrinking record business. Throw in the fact that 6-night-a-week gigs are non-existent, and the music community faces a supply and demand crisis. How do you create your own individual sound in academia? How do you get more secure on the bandstand without the consistent live engagements? How can you develop an identity in a business that values Twitter followers and looks as opposed to burning music you can feel in your gut? Looking for answers with a legend, Ahmad Jamal. Welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
It's good talking to you, Jake. You said a mouthful there. How did you know I did burlesque, though?
Well, I've talked
to... That's a hidden secret. I was in Calumet City working for $70 a week back in the 40s, late 40s, and you had no intermission, and there were no days off. And I put in my notice immediately, if not sooner. That was a hard one. How'd you find out, or did you find out? Did you know it was Calumet City, to be specific?
No, I'm going on strictly gut, because I've talked, honestly, the strip clubs provided incredible employment for the cats. I mean, you were playing 2 or 3 sets a night, and the strippers would ask for, they'd call out Duke Ellington tunes or jazz tunes, and then, Milestones or whatever, and you guys would be playing over the top of it. But I just took a chance that.
Well, you're absolutely correct. Calumet City, outside of Chicago.
Calumet City.
Burlesque house. Unbelievable. Hard work. The only way you can take an intermission, only way you can have an intermission, if you want to, you had to play, you had to become the drummer, and he became the pianist. There's no such thing as intermission. 8 hours straight. 8 hours straight.
I mean, was it just a drums piano duo, or were you playing in a trio? Can you paint the picture?
It was a quartet. The leader was a saxophonist, so it was a quartet.
Who was the leader?
I forget his name.
Unbelievable. So this was late 40s. All right, so I'm glad I nailed that one. I've woodshedded pretty hard, Ahmad, and over the last 5 years, I've interviewed close to 500 cats, and there's one guy I wanted to...
Yeah, I saw you had Jimmy Heath there. I would love Jimmy. Jimmy's approaching 90 and still going. He's a piece of wonders. Unbelievable, Jimmy Heath.
You know what? And a really, like a beautiful person, too. Like an amazing player, but, he was down for we just started having a jazz festival in Tucson. Maybe I can get you down there, but he just came down last year to play with the big band, and...
Tucson? I wrote a composition called Tucson and recorded it many years ago. If I can ferret it out, I'll send it to you.
All right. I want to... Tucson AZ, baby. Tucson.
In fact, Calvin Keys is on that track.
Is there a drummer that you can talk about that flies below the radar, but helped expand the African rhythms in your mind?
one of the most I'm fortunate to have extraordinary, not great drummers, extraordinary drummers. Most of them from New Orleans, beginning with fabulous, talented Bernard Fournier. Unbelievable. He's one of the most emulated drummers in the world. You can't patent the things he did. And if you could have patented it, he would have been a multi-millionaire. The things he did on Poinciana, for example, they're heard in every sector of drumming. And still being emulated. So, numero uno, Bernard Fournier, then the great drummer who did the drum book for one of the most successful Broadway shows, Idris Muhammad.
Wow, I did not know. When did you play with Idris?
Idris worked with me late 90s. In the 90s, he worked maybe 1990 onward until around 1997. He was with me, and what a sensational drummer. Then I have Herman Riley, who he left me and went with myself and the Jazz at Lincoln Center Orchestra for about 17 years. He's another unbelievable. All these guys from New Orleans. Then I had James Johnson, who people think is a Pittsburgh native, but he was born in Shreveport. Another Louisiana drummer. There's something there in the water.
Earl Palmer was down there, but I guess you probably never played with him.
No, it was. Those are my four main. Papa Joe Jones worked with me too.
Please stop. Okay, that's unbelievable.
He worked with me at the Embers when I went back to performing. I left Chicago. I was going to Juilliard and never got there. Joe Glazer started booking me. He booked me in the Embers, and my drummer in the Embers was Papa Joe Jones.
I mean,
can you believe that?
Well, could you go a little bit deeper, because I'm trying. This is important because listen, we've had, you know this better than anybody. The drum track came in 1975. Everybody now is listening to electronic music. It's a drum machine. Sometimes it's a real drummer, but the digital beats have been crushed into their ears for so many years. And I'm trying to get back to this idea of melodic improvisation, specifically what the drum.
I got one word for these disgusting commercials with that synthesized music. Yeah. Disgusting.
It's disgusting.
I mean, you can sell Toyota. Why can't you sell Toyota with Duke Ellington music?
But I guess, Ahmad, the thing is that what I'm trying to say is like.
Dave Brubeck.
I know. Well, no. I mean, Cal Jader was on Traps, but it's like, listen, younger. I can see my daughters. It's already in their ears. So I'm trying to get back to this approach of open space, and maybe with Fournier, if you could break down one, or Papa, what they were doing. Rhythmically, with fitting themselves in, and kind of recognizing that even within, if they got lost, any note can be the one. Could you talk about some of the techniques they use? Because I just want other drummers, younger cats, to know how to play free, how to let go and play free.
Well, this thing, there are only 4 or 5 cities that have that are parallel to development as New Orleans. It's Pittsburgh, Memphis, Detroit, Michigan, Kansas City, of course, East St. Louis. That's where Miles comes from, East St. Louis. These cities created the Sidney Bechets, a producer, Louis Armstrongs, the Billy Strayhorns, the Miles Davises, if I may say, the Jamals and the Johnny Costa. Johnny Costa also is Pittsburgh. You heard him on Mr. Rogers. That pianist that was so unbelievable was Johnny Costa. You ever hear Johnny Costa?
I have all those Mr. Rogers records on vinyl, so I know his name. He's great.
Unbelievable. So these cities develop what you're talking about. Unless you have this kind of background and growing up, if I may, it's not going to happen. Not going to happen, Jake. You have to. These people, and of course the Gillespie, Charlie Parker era was so influential. Revolution. Those are revolutions. You don't have revolutionaries anymore. It may be in the future. I'm not saying it's never going to come, but you don't have the revolutionaries like Gillespie, Charlie Parker era, the Louis Armstrong era, the Sidney Bechet, the Miles Davis, the Dave Brubeck, Paul Desmond. Those revolutionaries are non-existent right now. You have a lot of technology, but who's making a statement that's enduring? Who's making that take the A train? Or Lush Life, or the things that John Coltrane did. A little simple thing, a little from the American songbook. My favorite things. Okay.
Yep.
These people took these things and interpreted these things beyond the wildest dreams of their composers. That's what makes up the American classical music, sometimes referred to as jazz.
How do you account? Okay, but you talk about these 4 or 5 cities. How can you account for that regional sound that did occur at one time, like in East St. Louis or Chicago? Can you just talk about Chicago, because that's where you sort of started to cut your teeth. How did
Chicago is where we traveled in Chicago. It didn't happen. All these people who will connect with Chicago were not Chicago natives. Chicago was a melting pot, if I may. George Coleman traveled from Memphis to Chicago. I traveled from Pittsburgh. Bernard Fournier traveled from New Orleans and worked in a place called Little Chess also owned a nightclub called the Macombo. He was not only an entrepreneur in the record business, he was also a nightclub owner. That's where I found Bernard Fournier. It took me a long time to get him to join my group. Israel Crosby. Israel might have been born in Chicago, but that's a rarity. Most of us, we migrated to Chicago, and it was a melting pot. I think Vaughn Freeman was also, I worked with him too when I first came to Chicago. But most of us, we went to Chicago to find our place in society. There are very few cities that parallel the aforementioned New Orleans, Pittsburgh, Detroit, Memphis, East St. Louis, Kansas City.
Kansas City,
and
yeah.
It happens all over the world. Paris produced some extraordinary Ravel, Debussy. It's just that's the chemistry. It happens that I can't explain it, but that's the way it is. And from that comes all these monstrous contributions to the culture of the world.
I'm talking to Ahmad Jamal here on the Jake Feinberg Show, and can you talk to the audience about the first time that you went to Africa to perform, and was, sort of, I've talked to so many cats who are like, you grow up in the States and you get this vision of Tarzan, and the African people are very loud and boisterous and obnoxious, and then you go there, and I just want to get I'd like to get that story on the record, first time you went to Africa to perform, and what you thought of it going in and what changed coming out.
Well, the first time I went, I didn't perform. I went to Egypt and Sudan. Later, I performed in Johannesburg, in Cape Town. And Africa has been the source of much. A lot of people think that Africa is just Johannesburg. Africa is from Egypt to Morocco to the Cape and so forth and so on. And the culture is beyond belief. I'm not talking about the present day happenings. We're in chaos everywhere, including the United States.
That's right. That's right.
But Africa was, in one word, impressive. That's all I can. Impressive, and it's a shame what's going on now culturally. Be it Greece, or be it Paris, or be it the United States, New York City, Chicago, things ain't what they used to be. I'm quoting Duke again, although I think Mercer wrote that, not Duke. I think his son wrote that thing.
Well, but can you talk about? All right, so, but yeah, forget about the gentrification and the oil drilling and the colonialism of today. But you said impressions. Can you talk about one specific impression that was profound for you when you went there?
When I went there to perform.
Yeah.
Well, when I went there to perform, that's not. It's not so far back. I went to Africa to perform the first time about 10 years ago. I never performed there until I went to Johannesburg to play the festival there. And I was impressed in all of everything. One thing that stuck with me, one of the promoters came to me, Jake, and said, he was in tears when he spoke to me, because he said, we used to have to play golf with no lights, and we became great golfers because we were on the golf course with no lights, and he never thought he'd get a chance to, I think his father was a fan of mine, I'm not sure, but he was in tears when I came to South Africa to perform, because I turned down many dates, many times, because of the apartheid policy that I wouldn't work Africa. So that's why I went. So it took me so long to accept an engagement there. If everyone couldn't come, I wouldn't work.
No, let me go back to when you first went to Egypt, though. That was profound for you.
Oh, that was 1959. I'd been planning that trip since I was 11 years old, though. I've been planning that trip since I was 11 years old. I knew that those were my origins, and I was able to be hosted by one of the leading professors of Africa, Dr. Shawarbi. And when I went to Sudan, I was hosted by the ex-minister of the Interior, Sheikh Abdel Rahman. And, of course, they both deceased there, but the beginning of the university system starts in Africa. Al-Azhar is the oldest university. Our universities became pattern after Al-Azhar between you and I and the lamppost. And I made a speech there in 1959, because I didn't go there for touring. I went there or to perform. I went there for other reasons, and I went there as fulfillment of something that I was planning since I was 11 years old, because those are my roots.
Absolutely.
Those are roots of the African American. We're indigenous to the continent of Africa, and iron smelting and so many things developed there. The cradle of civilization perhaps lies in Africa. Okay? So many things, the university system is patterned after Al-Azhar in Egypt.
I mean, were you going there? I mean, obviously it was a trip, but those professors, were you taking classes with them? Did they?
No, they were just my hosts. I was staying there, and I was quite celebrated in fact, I was going to build a house in Heliopolis, but my mother was still living. I didn't want to be isolated from her, so I came back to the United States. Of course, I could have had a house there too, but like Henry Threadgill, he has a house in India. Right. And he just won the Pulitzer Prize. You know that, don't you? Henry Threadgill.
I'm learning stuff. You've already dropped some knowledge on me today that I'm going to have to, I'm going to have to research. You're teaching me some stuff, but.
Well, Henry Threadgill's uncle, Neville Wilson, used to play bass with me when I was working singles at Jimmy's Palm Tavern. I used to play single at Jimmy's Palm Tavern in Chicago. And Neville Wilson, bass player, who is Henry Threadgill's uncle. That's why Henry Threadgill and I hooked up so vigorously, because he knew that his uncle and I were very dear friends. So mentioned it. The fact is, I could have had a house in Egypt as well, like Henry has in India, but I didn't. I didn't build, and I didn't buy, as opposed to what he did. Although he's getting ready to sell his house in India, but I came back to the United States because my mother was still living, and I didn't want to be isolated from her.
No. You know, I often ask my guests this. I wanted you to talk about your concept of love and how just your concept of love, because I feel like we talk about the insanity of all over the world in every place, including the United States, and there's a callousness that's enveloping, and
pardon me, Jake. Ye that dwell on the islands are not safe. It's not even safe on the islands.
I know. I'm with you, man.
It's chaos everywhere.
I mean, you know, I mean,
and love is the answer. Isn't that a Beatles? Isn't there some lyrics by the Beatles talking about love is the answer?
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. It's all, you know. You know, but it's easier said than done, and I'd like you to maybe refer to something in your career or life where it demonstrated the kind of love that you bring. It would be easy for you to say, well, I channel it through my music, but I just wanted to know from you about your concept of love, because I just feel like you guys, we need to drive consciousness forward, and the only way it's going to happen is by hearing from cats like you.
Well, you know, I don't know what I've done. I just know that I keep trying to do it. And one of the main factors in that, the main ingredient is love. You have to first of all, you have to love yourself. You have to love what you're doing and what you're involved in before you can transmit to others. I don't think we love ourselves enough, and as a result, we're stepping over and on helpless people and creatures that need our assistance. And I think we have to discover love within ourselves first. And there's something that is hiding that, keeping that from developing. And the result is chaos. Love for all, hatred for none.